Haas football for you on a Black Friday as we take you right up to kickoff. Raiders and Chiefs, as if we haven't had enough. I mean, maybe we haven't had anything because, you know what, for Thanksgiving games, that wasn't it. But everybody's fat, happy, and full. Boys, how was your Thanksgiving? Welcome in, TJ, Mac. We got the whole crew again. I love this. It's like party time. Mac, what's going on, dude?
Not a whole lot. I'm on leftover plate number 37. I've run out of cranberry sauce. I do have one deviled egg left. But other than that, you know, the turkey stuffing and mashed potatoes are going strong.
There we go. TJ, how was your turkey day?
It was fantastic. If I didn't have to watch those crap bag games, I would have been a lot more it would have been a little bit better, but you know, it is what it is.
It was to use Mac's reference there, the deviled eggs, the appetizers for what I think is a loaded Friday from what we got. Raiders Chiefs is always fun, no matter what the point differential, the difference of the teams. It's always a fun one. Raiders are probably going to get their asses kicked again. We'll get to that game in a little bit. But we have a big game that impacts the college football playoffs tonight. Georgia and Georgia Tech, and a lot of people are going, Georgia's going to wipe the field with Georgia Tech. There's been quite a few teams that have bumped into Georgia Tech this year that have found out that that's not as easy as a win as you think. But before we move forward here, I got to ask the pressing question. Mac, I'll start with you because you just went through the gamut. What is your Thanksgiving food MVP? Because I know what mine is, and it's not even close.
Not even close. I have to tell you, just because you don't have it a lot during the year, I'm a big stuffing guy on Thanksgiving. That's my MVP because it's got to be in the turkey. It's got to be in the turkey. That's a number one. And like I said, it's just one of those, you know, my dad made it. It was that recipe that it wasn't written on paper, was all up here, you know, and I had to kind of watch him. And, you know, now I've got it all up here, which is kind of scary, but that's my MVP. You have it once in a while, you know, you throw in some pork chops and you throw a little stuffing, but for me, that's my MVP. It's the stuffing.
DJ, your MVP.
Got to be the green bean casserole. Oh, when that thing is done correctly, not with those, you got to get all the goop on the top and the French fried onions or whatever the hell they're called. You got to get it. It's got to be like thick, like a thick. Good night, Irene.
Nice crusty top to it, but you got to use fresh green beans. These people that use canned green beans should be condemned and arrested. For me, Mac, it's kind of the same for me. It's my mom's, the way she made the mashed potatoes, and she's no longer with us. She hasn't been for a while. Thanksgiving, her favorite holiday, but the way she made her mashed potatoes. And for breakfast this morning, I had mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, and extra turkey. So on we go. And people that don't like turkey, we're going to have some conversations later down the road. But let's get to the stuffing, if you will, of the college football season. The new rankings came out. And I'm going to be honest, boys, just initial reactions. And Tej, I'll let you run first with this one. I really kind of don't have a problem anywhere with this set of rankings. Ole Miss and Alabama, 14 and 13. Those were the biggest droppers, if you will. Indiana fell down 5 spots as well, so you can throw them in there. SMU moves up 4 spots to number 9. But what we're seeing here is a clear established path, and I think I really, really do like this, and I support it. The committee is watching games. They're watching who and how. And the two biggest benefactors, if you will, from last weekend have to be Tennessee and Indiana with all the extra chaos, because as the morning ended, Ryan Day, cheap ass, take the friggin' knee, dude. Well, I'm classless, just absolutely classless. But I think the two biggest benefactors, TJ, Tennessee and Indiana, without a doubt.
Oh, for sure. The and you know, the only I could go through this and nitpick it a little bit. I'm not thrilled about where Penn State is and where Notre Dame is, just based on Penn State's past performance in games against really good teams. But I mean, now I'm nitpicking. So overall, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I'm very interested to see what happens this weekend and see what the effect is.
Mac, what do you think? What was your first takeaway?
I mean, I like it. I like the fact that they've finally are starting to give some of those teams like SMU and Boise just a little bit of pop. And I think that's important because they deserve it. Because, I mean, when you look at the record, if you take away the names of the team, take a look at the records that we've got. 11-0, 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, 10-1, 9-2. I mean, if you're going to pick on we're in this conference or we're in that conference, then you throw out Notre Dame and you throw out SMU as well. I mean, let's just be honest. So they're teams that have earned spots. They're starting to get a little bit of pop, and I like that.
Yeah, and let me put something else to rest, because I know who's starting this campaign, and it's the same windbags that ruined the end of last year, Florida State fans. I saw a tweet this week, and we know that Quinn Ewers' status, it's a low level, it's a low grade ankle sprain, and people are starting the argument, starting to throw this out on X and Blue Sky, where you can follow us everywhere but Snapchat at Mike Arana Show, that if the committee is going to be consistent in their determinations, then if Quinn Ewers can't play, that Texas shouldn't be included in the college football playoff. Let me stop you right there. Jordan Travis broke his damn leg last year. Obviously, none of us wanted to see that. He was having a fantastic year. But let's put two things in perspective here. It's a low-level ankle sprain. Number two, you can make the argument, and a lot of people can, that the backup quarterback in Texas is more prominent than Quinn Ewers is, and that's not a knock on Quinn Ewers. I love Quinn Ewers. I love what he's done for Texas. I'm interested to see
more money than him.
Yeah, but stop it, Florida State fans. It's a bad look on you. Just take your L this weekend, take your ass kicking from one of the hottest teams in the country right now, and just move on with life. And Texas is in that position. Georgia's already in the SEC title game, Mac, and we've got the real interesting game, and TJ's going to have this on After Dark Saturday. Texas and Texas A&M, where A&M's got to win all the way through, win out. Tennessee is just going to sit there and go, yo, we beat Vandy, man. We're cool. We're kicking it up. But I'm interested to see how this SEC thing shakes itself out, especially with the potential of a Georgia-Texas SEC title game.
It's kind of funny, we play all these games, we do all this stuff, and who do we end up with, right? The two teams that we kind of thought were going to be there probably in the end anyway, which is kind of funny. I mean, it's just the way that it happens. And I was going to say, let's throw one other thing out there with this week being, rivalry week. We know, all the cliches, throw out all the books and everything else. And we know wild things are going to happen. And some of these games anyway, it's never as it seems. You throw the records out, all that kind of stuff. This is going to be a fun week, but let's be honest, whether it's yours, whether it's Manning, that Texas team, I don't know that they really take a step down. Like you said, they might even take a step up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Look, Texas is very intriguing here. I'm almost convinced that Texas would actually be better off not winning this game, and then just getting healthy and going. And all you would be doing, think about it though, all you would be doing if Texas lost, their bye shifts basically, because they probably wouldn't be in the top four. So their bye shifts from the opening week to the conference championship week. Yeah, they have to play an extra playoff game, but if that,
but it might be a home game.
Exactly, and that's more money. So it's. I mean, if you're Sark, can you do that? No, you're going to go out there and you're going to try to beat A&M, especially since this is the first time in 13, 14 years that they played each other. Like, this game used to mean so much just on a national stage.
So great, yes.
Yeah, it was like, I'm going to get fat and happy, and then I'm going to watch Texas A&M after we're all done. So yeah, this game, and like I said, I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it later. But yeah, this game is going to be it's going to be a fun one, man.
Well, and Mac, you'll have an interesting breakdown tonight because obviously the biggest game on the marquee, if you want to call it the biggest game on the marquee, is Ohio State and Michigan. But does anybody really give a crap about that? Because to us, and this is why this is going to be the video that'll post later tonight on all of our channels, the South Carolina Clemson game just got a hell of a lot more interesting. And if you think back to the South Carolina LSU game, interception return that got called for a penalty, South Carolina did, really kind of flipped the ending of that game. LSU escapes the victory. Yes, the game's already done. It's been played. But South Carolina, at their spot at 15, can kind of maybe play their way in. They're obviously going to have to beat Clemson. Clemson's got a lot on the line here. This is going to be one of the bigger, more intense, I think, South Carolina-Clemson games that we've ever seen. Early thoughts without blowing your pick, Mac.
Yeah, I mean, the only way South Carolina gets in is they have to be an at-large bid. They can't get in through the conference championship. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to have to win, and then they're going to – it's going to take maybe a Michigan win or an Indiana losing again or something weird like that for them to kind of to get in. They really are going to need a lot of help. I mean, the one team that we have to really kind of keep an eye on that is ranked behind them, Iowa State, could end up being in a championship game as well. So there's a lot of teams that are kind of right around South Carolina that could jump them, and even if they win, they're just not in a really good spot. But I mean, you're right. All of a sudden, that big spotlight is kind of really shifted on the ACC once again.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing, you mentioned Iowa State, the most likely scenario, and there's a million of them in the Big 12, but the most likely scenario in a game, Mac, that you're going to be at tomorrow is ASU and Iowa State play in the Big 12 title game. Now, it doesn't mean that BYU's out of it. It doesn't mean that Colorado's out of it, but the most likely scenario we have for that Big 12 title game, brought to you by WWE and the Big 12 Network in Arlington. The most exciting thing to happen in Arlington this year. It won't buffer like the last major sporting event there. But ASU, who's red hot right now, ASU, Kansas, and Florida, probably the three hottest teams in the entire country. Kansas and Florida have destroyed the college football playoff. Funny fact about Kansas, I saw this pop up on X this week. If you take out the last 2 minutes of all of Kansas's games this year, Kansas is 9-2. If you eliminate the last 2 minutes of every game. And TJ, we talk about this all the time, shit time and garbage time in games. Kansas has failed in that sense, but they're one win away, like you mentioned, ahead of the class. They're one win away from bowl eligibility against Baylor this week. And it's kind of interesting. Now the Big 12 is more in the mix. Now the ACC is more in the mix. And that's why everybody needs to just pump the brakes and relax. And before we get into the matchups, I mean, TJ, we talk about this all the time. Garbage time in games, it's where good tickets go to die, and it's where seasons go to die. And that's kind of what happened to Kansas.
Oh yeah, and we've cashed out enough in the last 2 minutes that we know better. But yeah, I mean, look, Kansas, it's almost you kind of feel for Kansas right now because the first half of the season they just look dreadful. And now look at their carnage over the last 3 weeks. Colorado, BYU, like these aren't slouch teams, man. They're beating and now they'll get another. Now they get a crack at Baylor. I mean, this is going to be very interesting. They absolutely correct. I mean, with a win, Kansas can go almost all the way up to 5th or 6th in the conference. So,
TJ, there's another team, and it's on your hat that's played like that at the very end of games that could have 4 or 5 more wins, that they have a big game this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's not just a big game, the battle for the cannon with UNLV and Nevada. It's, can Nevada screw UNLV's chances here? Because of the way the Mountain does their playoff rankings, they can cost UNLV a shot at Boise State in the championship game there. And that would be a huge development because of those other teams that are pushing. Tulane has got an outside kind of angle there, and they need that kind of help, to grab that last bit. So let's look at some of these matchups, guys. And I mean, obviously, Mac, I know one of them I'm going to leave it because there's one matchup as the bracket sits from Tuesday's rankings release that's going to harken a whole lot of memories for people in the state of Arizona. For me, the matchup that jumps out, if it ended just like this, is Indiana and Penn State. And I've said it multiple times. I think Penn State is the 3rd or 4th best team in their conference. And for me, getting a chance to see Indiana and Penn State is the world. Mac, what's the matchup, even though I know what it is? What's the matchup that stands out here that jumps off the page to you if it were to stop just like it is from Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, I know I could jump on the ASU
Take
Ohio
the
State,
softball, man.
yeah, I know, I know. You know, my son's already going, man. I can't believe we'd make the college playoffs, and then we'd have to go play Ohio State. I'm like, dude, stop complaining. I'm like, you would be in. I tell you, I like the Indiana Penn State. I think there's a team that scares me, and I know you're going to laugh a little bit about this, and I don't know that I'd want to play them, and that's SMU.
I wouldn't
And
laugh one bit. That team physically just beats the crap out of you.
you know, that's a team, and right now, whether they're on the road or at home, I don't want to play that team. And so that first round, whoever gets him, whether it's Notre Dame or whoever gets him, that's going to be a tough matchup. The way it sets up now, if they would win, who do they get? Texas. How about that matchup? SMU against Texas. You don't think they'll be ready for that one if that happens? Imagine that. That would be fun.
There's some juicy ones. TJ, is there one that jumps to you?
I was going to say SMU Notre Dame. I mean, SMU just scores like they have a wad of hundreds on 4th Street right now, and it's consistent, right? It's consistent. They put up 30 points a game consistently, and that defense. I mean, I watched that Pitt game, and they took Pitt, who was supposedly the second best or third best team in the conference, and just annihilated Pitt. Like Pitt didn't even belong on the same field. So yeah, whoever right now SMU's kind of on a heater as far as I'm concerned. And that game against Notre Dame, that would be fun. Oh, holy smokes, that would be fun because we've already
to take it, even to carry it, TJ. I mean, let's remember something here. You have the damn shirt. SMU is paying their way to play in the ACC, and they said, "Hey, we're here to win your conference." Like they're paying their way to play there.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But they're doing it. They're doing what they have to do, right? They're doing what they have to do. And so, I mean, they've won 8 in a row. Who I wouldn't want to play that team. Not a chance.
Yeah. Well, there's another one, Mac, and this one's close to you. I'll give you the final word here. Boise State, interesting placement for them at 11. They're not actually taking a spot from anybody now. And that, to me, was one of the more eye-opening things that I saw. Obviously, we're going to get into a couple of these games, like Miami, for example. They haven't played a full 60 minutes yet. They play at Syracuse this weekend, and and I'll get to this a little bit later. That's not an easy place to go. If Miami plays a full 60 minutes, I don't think any one of the three of us would say that Syracuse is a better team than Miami. That'd be asinine. Miami's probably got the most explosive dynamic quarterback left in this mix. I mean, Dylan Gabriel would like to have a word, and I know the Cale Moore train is in Tony's house. But Mac, final word here. The Boise State thing was really interesting to me as well.
Yeah, and I mean, they haven't exactly played well the last couple of weeks. They played good. Gentry's been, doing his thing. But yeah, the bottom line is it's always tough in conference. You play those teams, they know your style, and so it's really, really tough. I mean, I like where Boise is right now, but I'll tell you what, if that we saw it a couple weeks ago, if that championship game ends up being UNLV, Boise State, remember where that game is being played. It's being played up in Vegas. That place, they packed it for a regular season game. That's going to be a magical night. I'm telling you, that's going to be a fun game. Mark that on your calendar if it happens.
Yeah, and if you need any more proof for people that want to whine and complain and bitch about strength of schedules, this, that, and the other thing, if you need any more proof of the committee is watching who you play and how you play, Boise State is now not taking a spot from anybody because Boise State, if you want to play this card, has the best loss of anybody that's in this mix, a game that they should have and could have won against Oregon. Let's move to tonight, guys, the first game that kind of impacts this. And I there's something about this game, and I'm telling you, with the weird week with Thanksgiving, rivalry game, this, that, and the other thing, Georgia, who's a massive favorite, I've seen this line go up to 3 touchdowns. It's hovering around 19.5, over under at 53.5. Georgia Tech has played spoiler. Just ask Miami what Georgia Tech can do. This is an interesting game, and the fact that it's on Friday, not Saturday, I think creates another dynamic. If it was at Georgia Tech, I think they're that would make a bigger difference, TJ. But I know you and me have talked about this Georgia Tech team quite a few times. Does Georgia Tech have any shot against Georgia?
Yes, but not many. They're going to need a lot of things to go right. I'm telling you that, because that Georgia defense, when they get going, just look out. They're not going to be. They need to get the run going. They have to. And if they can't do that, they're done. And it could be really quick. This is a game that I could see Georgia. It could go one of two ways when you think about it. I could see Georgia just opening it up in the first half and being up like 21 zip before you turn around. I could also see this game being like a 7-6 type of first half. I don't see much in the middle there, but Georgia Tech's got to get it going on the ground. They just have to.
Yeah, and Mac, this game could come down to who gets it going on the ground better, because the one thing Georgia hasn't done all year, I mean, you look at Georgia's stats overall for the season, their top running back is the freshman from Compton, Nate Frazier. I mean, he's got 537 yards. Georgia. And there was a lot of expectations when they got ETN to transfer from Florida to Georgia. He hasn't been able to stay healthy for a lot of the year. Nate Frazier at 537 yards, Mac, is their leading rusher going into this stage in the season, something we've never seen out of Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, and Carson hasn't played really well at quarterback either. I mean, that's a little bit, that kind of scares me just a little bit. But it's that I'm at that point of the year now. It's like you are who you are. I just think defensively, Georgia is going to get the job done in this game. I don't think Georgia Tech, I mean, they're just not explosive enough for me. That's not the Georgia Tech style. And that's the one thing that scares me. I think Georgia can put points on the board fairly quick. We know that. And like you guys said, if Georgia can get out in front, it's going to be hard for Georgia Tech to get behind. Georgia Tech's going to win this game. It's got to be that methodical. We got to keep it close. But I think if Georgia can find a way to stretch it out, especially early, I think it could get really ugly.
So you're going to cover the number before I go to TJ. 19.5 is the number I'm going to give you.
No, I don't think 19.5. I mean, just when you have those teams like that, like Georgia Tech, they know they're going to take time off the clock. It's going to be a smaller time frame that Georgia's going to have the ball. I don't think they'll cover that. I think Georgia Tech will keep it within that 19.5 points.
Deej?
Yeah, this is a first half bet for me, but fun fact, in the last 7 games head to head, Georgia's gone over the 200-yard mark rushing as a team. They're going to need to do that again. And I don't see why they won't. Yeah, Frazier's the second fiddle, but I mean, he actually looked pretty good last week. So, they have that going for him. I think Georgia wins this game fairly easily. 19.5 is a little scary right now, but I think they win by 2 touchdowns.
I went with Georgia Tech plus 19.5 is where I locked it in, just because of the Friday night game, the shorter week rivalry game. Not that I don't think Georgia's a good team. I think Georgia, to me, is one of the scarier teams because their ceiling in the college football playoff is so high, and their floor is already higher than a lot of these other teams. But I did take the 19.5 because of the short week. Let's move on to the big Ohio State kickoff on Fox. Ohio State and Michigan. This number is right around that 3 touchdown mark. Over under on this game, 42.5, which is kind of interesting to me. And I know why, because Michigan probably can't score 10 of the 43 that you need to go over in that game. Obviously, TJ, you're the overmaster in this one. But I gotta say this is the least excited I've ever been. Not that I've ever been jacked to watch Ohio State and Michigan, but as a college football fan, it's a big game. But 2 things at play here. Number 1, Fox, please get rid of the Big Newton kickoff thing. It's not helping the conference whatsoever. It's the big Ohio State kickoff and then toss in Coach Prime. I mean, it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. This is going to be, I think, the most lopsided Ohio State-Michigan game that I've ever seen. And that being said, can you imagine what will happen in the college football playoffs if somehow, some way, Michigan were to go into the shoe and beat Ohio State? That would turn this thing upside down.
Holy cow, that's going to take a miracle, though. Like,
you can't use the M. Can't say M.
My bad. But I mean, have you seen Michigan's offense? Like, neither have I.
Nobody has.
It's like,
it is so bad that, like, it's almost like the coach is playing Tecmo Bowl, and all he does is just punt instead of getting on offense. He just punts and plays defense only. That's all he does. And then your defense just gets worn out, and then you lose like 52-6. This is not an exciting game for me. I'm actually glad it's on at 9:00 because then I can go on my long run and I can like walk the dogs and stuff. And then by the time I get done, the game will be over. So I'm excited about that. I think Michigan has 3 chances, slim, none, and fat. And I think we just leave it at that.
Mac.
Yeah, I mean that it's. See, I had to look. It really is 21. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a huge number in that. But I mean, we have, again, we go back to saying about these rivalry games. There's that underlying stuff that we have to remember, and the fact that Ohio State hasn't won this game in a couple of calendars, right? So if they have the chance to win this game, and they can maybe push an extra 2, 3, 4 touchdowns across, they're going to do it. They want to do it. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go out on this one. I'm going to lay the 21 points on this one. I am. I think Ohio State's going to send a message.
I thought you were going a whole different direction.
I'm a little scared, but I'm going to take the M off my name. Just, throw it away, throw the M off my name, and I'm gonna lay it down.
Vegas Ack says go with the Buckeyes. Again, it's really interesting because we know about and people are still whining about this. Let me give you some advice to go forward in this day and age of college football. You saw Bryce Underwood flip to Michigan from LSU. Dave Portnoy had a hand in that. Larry Ellison had the biggest financial hand in that. And who knows? I mean, we've talked about DJ Lagway at Florida. Obviously, there was a disaster in the last quarterback Florida tried to get, and who knows where the hell he's even playing right now. But this is what it is in college football. Oregon's got an NFL-style roster. Ohio State, it's championship or bust for them. Michigan finally said, oh, shit, we need to get back in the mix with the Underwood thing. I'm completely staying away from this game wholeheartedly. I don't like the over because Ohio State would have to beat them 43-0. I do like maybe a first quarter bet in this game, maybe a first half bet in this game. We talked about it. You and I didn't last week, Mac, that Ohio State has only scored, and I don't remember from last week, but I'm pretty sure it still fits. Ohio State's only scored 7 points in a quarter one time this season. They start slow. And in this game, if you start slow, you're playing Michigan's game because everything's slow at Michigan. Let's move on. Another interesting game, a team that is in the driver's seat for a good position here in the college football playoff, and that's Notre Dame. They move up 1 spot to 5th overall. They're on the road at USC. And if you think about this, Notre Dame has got a night win in the SEC this year, which has washed the NIU thing out of a lot of people's memories. The people whose teams are on the fringe are still going to go, oh, why is Notre Dame up there? They lost to Northern Illinois. Listen, there's only what do we have? Undefeated teams in here. Oregon, Ohio State lost to Oregon. Yeah. Texas is not undefeated. Penn State's not undefeated because God forbid they ever went undefeated. So there's one clear-cut best team in the country, no doubt about it. Notre Dame at USC. You would think this would be a whitewash, TJ, but for some reason, this could be a dangerous spot for Notre Dame. I don't think so because I've said my piece on Lincoln Riley, TJ, 7.5. If this thing, depending on where it goes at kickoff, I'm going to look at it. I like the over in this game a lot because USC's defense is better this year, but not that much better. I really wonder how long Lincoln Riley is going to stay in SoCal with this one. I like the Irish to cover the 7.5 here. I think hands down they're a better football team.
I think they're a better football team too. I was a little impressed with Jaden Maiava last week. He actually looked like the quarterback play at USC has not been terrible, but Miller Moss is just not exciting to me. So it was interesting to see.
Play at Michigan.
Well, you can go get 5 bros from down the street. You can play at Michigan. I don't know. But this game, yeah, I do expect it to be kind of I like the over as well. I think it's going to be a closer game than most people realize, just because this is like USC. If they lose, they go to 6-6, and there's a huge difference psychologically, especially when you're playing in a new conference, even though this is not a conference game, and you have a coach as high profile as Lincoln Riley, who still hasn't won anything, but still 7-5, 6-6. This is their Super Bowl. Who cares? The UCLA game might have been the rivalry game, but this is their Super Bowl. They're going to come out and they're going to play balls to the wall. I just think that Notre Dame's going to wear them down.
You know, it's kind of funny. I mean, it's really weird. Like Notre Dame, it's just one of those schools, you know, we used to always watch them, right? It didn't matter who they were playing. It just seemed like we would watch them every Saturday. And it's not the case. Like, you know, you kind of, this year, you almost kind of avoid them, right? I mean, it's like, I think we all got turned off early in the year with this Notre Dame team. Here's the thing about USC for me. In the last 5 games, only one time have they gone over 30 points where they've scored. And Notre Dame, if there's one thing that they can do, is they play a pretty tenacious defense. And if USC is having trouble scoring against Maryland and UCLA and whatnot, they're going to have trouble, I think, scoring against Notre Dame. And one thing Notre Dame does, throughout the schedule, they can put points on the board. I think Notre Dame wins this game. I think I don't know if this is really a signature win, only in name only, you know, against USC. But I think they need this because a lot of people are questioning the fact that, yeah, I know they're 10-1, but, you know, who have they played? Why are they even here? You know, this is not, you know, Notre Dame football like we know it. But maybe it is. We just haven't even seen it. Maybe this is the one game we all sit and watch and look and say, oh, you know what? Maybe this team is pretty good.
Yeah, and, you know, Jeremiah Love is so much fun to watch for the Irish. I mean, you talk about a guy that just punishes you. He's only a sophomore, too. That's the other thing I think a lot of people forget. And I think the other thing with Notre Dame is we all expected when Riley Leonard transferred from Duke to Notre Dame that he was going to put up some massive numbers. And he's had an okay season, 14 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Again, anybody that evaluates a quarterback based on how many interceptions they throw just doesn't know ball, period. He's 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's a great ratio. He's thrown for 1,900 yards. Obviously, we know what he does on the ground, but that's the weird thing about Notre Dame and how they're built, because when you looked at last week's game for Notre Dame, you know, they pounded Navy, and there was a lot of people last week that thought, hey, Navy 14.5. This game's at Yankee Stadium, blah, blah, blah. Riley Leonard threw for 178 yards. He ran for another 83, accounted for 3 touchdowns. Like, Riley Leonard's not going to throw for 350 in a game. That's not what Notre Dame needs him to do. The way they're built, you make
He's not
good.
Jackson Dart. You're right. He's not going to put up the numbers, Mike, but you know what he's going to do? At the end of the fourth quarter, they're going to be in, you know, they're going to take the knee and they win the game. That's the thing. And you're right. We evaluate so many times quarterbacks on, you know, what their numbers are. I mean, let's be honest, you know, he's not going to win the Heisman, but I mean, I'm not saying he's going to win a national championship either, but you know, quarterbacks sometimes, I don't want to call him a system quarterback, but sometimes quarterbacks just have to win games.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing, TJ, like when you look at Notre Dame's setup, like I think a lot of people thought Jaden Greathouse was going to have a lot better year for them, and he hasn't had the numbers. But again, that's not how this Notre Dame team wants to play. They control the ball. They're going to pound you. I mean, they had almost 200 yards combined last week with Leonard and Jeremiah Love. I mean, they're going to grind you out. They can win in the cold weather games. Obviously, they play in cold weather games. If you look at the current status, obviously, we talked about this earlier, Teach. The Notre Dame SMU game is incredibly intriguing on both sides of the ball because SMU, I think, is built to play anywhere they want to go. Notre Dame just says, hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. And we don't really care if it's flashy or not. And the proof is in the pudding. They had one bad game. Every team has had one bad game. Even undefeated Oregon has had a bad game, or technically 2, if you want to say it. I don't think they had a bad game against a good Boise State team. Obviously, they had kind of an off game against Wisconsin, but we saw what happened there. Oregon's defense is really damn good, and nobody thinks that. Notre Dame's kind of the same way. Hey, we're going to play our way. then you're going to have to do it with us.
Oh yeah, Notre Dame is just—it's almost like the Northern Illinois game kind of smacked them in the face and woke them up, because ever since then, like, the defense has just been incredible. Yeah, this isn't exactly murderer's row of a schedule, but I mean, like, there's top 25 teams in here that they pummeled, just like right out of the stadium. They blew Army out of the stadium. They blew Navy out of the stadium. So I mean, they beat Louisville by 7, but Louisville, I think, is one of those teams that's kind of weird. I don't know. But they're beating teams, and they're beating them soundly. And so I expect them to. And USC is a step up, I think, in competition from what they've been playing in the ACC, especially since they haven't played Miami, or SMU, actually, for that matter. But yeah, I still expect them to come and take care of their business. And fun fact, overrated Caleb, my favorite quarterback, is going to be on the sideline for USC. So all that Notre Dame has to do is put on the University of Utah uniforms, and this game's over.
Mac, are you covering the number, or are you laying the number? 7.5.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame easily 7.5, no problem whatsoever.
All right, we're across the board on that one. Let's go to the big one. College Station, game day, Texas A&M, a rivalry renewed at probably the best time to do it. And guys, when I look at this game, whether Ewers plays, whether it's Arch Manning, I don't think it really friggin' matters one bit whatsoever. I look at these two teams, and clearly to me, Texas is on a shelf, and A&M, Mike Elko's done a great job this year. They've had some signature wins. The place is going to be jumping. The bonfire the night before. But when I look at this short number here, TJ, obviously I'm not going to make you make a pick. Texas A&M has to win out. They have to win out. That's their only shot here. Texas, we mentioned it, is it a disadvantage for Texas to lose this game? Not necessarily, but what that rivalry means to people in the state of Texas, especially. Rivalry renewed. There's going to be a lot of heat, and there's going to be a lot of chippy. But I just think Texas is clearly on a different scale. Mac, I'll go to you first, since TJ's not going to make his pick. I've got the Longhorns covering the number easy. I don't care if it's 7.5, 8.5 by the time kickoff goes. And I like this game to go over as well.
Texas is one of those teams that you just have to watch right away, because it's one of those things. In the last couple of weeks, I've watched them. I've had them in the 4 box, and I kind of my attention goes to another game, and they're up 7-0, and then I go back, and before you know it, the game's over. It's like they put up 3 touchdowns. That's how they are for me. Texas is one of those teams that once they get rolling, they're really, really tough, and they get going offensively and defensively. This is a fun team to watch. I think this is going to be a close game. I think this is going to come down to a field goal. This in my one rivalry, I think this is the one that I see this one coming. A&M has so much to play for. To be, with the home crowd, we know how that place, it's going to get raucous. That whole place is going to start shaking. It's going to be one of those things that I don't care who the quarterback is for Texas. I just think this is going to be a close game. I think a field goal is going to win it. I think Texas is going to have that field goal advantage and knock A&M out of any consideration. But I think it's going to be really, really close.
Tej, we go into this from the betting style and the betting standpoint all the time. You and I were joking back and forth in the group message last week. Like, every time I have the opposite side of Texas A&M, when you have Texas A&M in the after dark, it seems to screw me. Last week, it actually helped me. I was big on the Auburn side. I liked the spot for Auburn. They did everything they can to piss it away. But emotional letdown thing here is something to factor in. Do you think A&M is toast without spilling your pick? Are they toast? Because that was a brutal one last week at Jordan-Hare.
I don't think they're toast. I think it might be the opposite. They may have been looking ahead a little bit. That might have been a classic trap game. Look, they're going to have the entire state of Texas say that they were at this game before it's all said and done. This place is going to be absolutely bonkers. And here's the thing, like,
all right.
That's right. But like when A&M went to the backup quarterback. He hasn't turned the ball over that much. And last week it wasn't so, he didn't make as many plays as he needed to make. But this team, for the most part, has played pretty well. Marcel Reed has been able to make throws, but more importantly, he's running as well. And that's an aspect of this game that I think Texas needs to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like every game, Reed's just building confidence. And so once again, last week notwithstanding, because that was a tough one. But I think A&M is going to be ready. I think he's going to be ready. I'm not going to give it away just yet, but I don't think they're toast this yet. They have too much to play for.
Keep it in your pocket. I think the Longhorns see what's on the horizon. The emotions we talked about, Texas is going to be all right. Let's move over to the NFL side. Power pyramid from this week. I didn't change anybody, guys. What do you have to say?
Wait a minute. I got something to say.
Okay.
I got one thing to say.
No, we don't need to talk about that team. We don't need to talk about that game.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk about it because I'm going to be there tomorrow. I mean, just the kitty cats. All right. It's okay. NFL. Let's go. I just want to.
No. There is some. Here's for people that aren't familiar with the Arizona State-Arizona rivalry. Arizona has everything to play for in this game. They can do the one thing that makes them the happiest down in Tucson is screw the Devils. Kenny Dillingham's team is going to get TJ to finally go to Del Taco. For the people that don't understand that, we'll have to explain that later. TJ, you can explain it here in a second. What I saw from that Arizona State team last weekend is their ability both on the offensive, and we talked about it. Arizona State have the decisive advantage in the trenches on both sides of the football. Arizona has failed every expectation possible. The best thing they have going is Tedero McMillan, who's up for some awards here for the best receiver in the country at the end of the year. The dude's going to be a pro. That's going to have a great career. I believe that. That being said, there's something with Dilly and the way he's put this Devils team together and the guys that are now saying, I want to go play at Arizona State, his energy. You saw him with that whole disaster at the end of the game, like giving it to the refs. Like that was an incredible friggin' scene. Very weird last 2 minutes, a very weird second half in general. What are your thoughts? Because I know you're going to give us some good video vibes on our channels at the game. I mean, I know in your house it's a big one.
Oh my gosh!
Excuse me for trying to go over the top of it, but Arizona State kicked the absolute shit out of Arizona this weekend.
Jonathan's been talking about he's never been to a rivalry game. So this is his first one. And let me tell you, he's told us that about 100 times each day, that he's that excited. I've never been to a rivalry game. You know that, right? Yeah, we know 99 times already today. So, and he loves to run his mouth. He goes, when are we going to get there? I go, about 10 minutes before the game. He's like, what? I go, I'm not walking you around Tucson with your mouth. That's for sure. But no. Excited. We're excited. I mean, Arizona should win this game. That's the only thing that really scares me because, Mike, this rivalry, you've seen it a lot. It seems like, that one, whoever is supposed to win seems like they really never do win. And especially having it be down in Tucson, weird things kind of happen down there, go all the way back to Chuck Cecil and everything. Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm going to have another EG's today, so I'm good.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Since you got me going down this spot, I'm going to put you guys on the spot because it is rivalry weekend for all three of our favorite teams, if you will, in college football. So I already said, I think Arizona State covers the number. I think Florida beats the living shit out of Florida State, and I'm going to enjoy every single last minute of that. Billy Napier, I got to give the dude his flowers. Listen, he's been under the gun all year with their schedule and the fact that this team is going to a bowl game and can finish the season 8-5 when everybody wanted Napier out. The focus and the drive from that team, and you've seen the results. People want to play with DJ Lagway. They're getting commits to flip from big-time schools, and obviously we know money is the driver there. Are we going across the board on our teams here? Are we going to do a Moss cover the number rivalry play. I've got the Gators to cover 14.5. I know you have the Sun Devils to cover 8.5. The biggest question here, because there's a battle for a cannon, which ironically has some tie into your house, Mac, as your oldest son is a UNR kid. TJ, does Nevada take the cannon?
I don't think they take the cannon, but I think they cover the 17.
Wow, you heard it there. We're going to go on a show lay on rivalry weekend, fat and happy. Worst case scenario, if it doesn't look like it's working out, I'll probably pass out because I'll have so much turkey left over. So let's move to the National Football League. And let's start, guys, with my power pyramid because my name's on the marquee. Let's start with it. I didn't move anybody this week. Detroit, Buffalo, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Philly, Baltimore, Washington, the Chargers, and Houston is still my number 10 team. Here's the most mind-blowing thing about the Texans. And shout out to our guy, Will Kunkel from Fox in Houston. Houston has given up more sacks this year through 12 games than they did all of last season. That being said, I still believe in this Houston team a lot. We know they're going to be in the first wild card game because that's the Texans' wild card spot. We've talked about it a million times over. Do you guys have any qualms with my power pyramid this week? TJ?
No, I don't. I thought you were going to say that the Texans were playing like David Carr was behind center again because remember, man, that first season, that dude, I'm surprised he came back for his second season there. Holy smokes, that was awful. But no, I didn't have really any issues. That Texans team is kind of a conundrum, but I think they win that division by default.
Mac, I know you have qualms.
I have qualms because I think there's a fraud, to use your word. There's a fraud in that top four, and they wear black and gold.
In the top four. Are you kidding me right now?
I'm not. I mean I know I get on these guys a lot, but I'm telling you, this is not a great football team. It's a really good defense, but this offense is still an issue. I know it's getting better, but you're not going to win games the way they're playing offense right now. And I don't care. The snow in Cleveland cannot be an excuse. How many times do you get in the red zone and you can't punch it in? You know what? A zebra has stripes no matter what. And the Steelers, their stripe is their kicker. It's like they just quit once they get into the red zone. You're not going to win games with your kicker. You're just not. They struggle. And I'm telling you, this weekend is going to be a prime example. They're not going to beat Cincinnati because Cincinnati is going to put points on the board, and the Steelers aren't going to put enough points on the board. That's what it comes down to. Because Cincinnati, I don't care who they played, they've put points on the board. The Steelers aren't going to do that. They're not going to be able to kick 45 points. Well, maybe
you know the stat. We talked about it last week. The Steelers this year are 2-0 in games they don't score a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And when they score touchdowns like they did last week in the Snow Globe game, I mean, they just look like a different team. Defense travels, guys. We know this. And I don't think Cincinnati's going to put up a ton of points on the Steelers this weekend. I really don't. The Steelers coming in off of the extra rest, it's that defense, much like where I have Minnesota in the rankings, still up there high, the defense can cover up a lot of your warts on the offensive side, especially when we get into postseason football.
Well, I'm just saying, again, I told you last week how that or a couple weeks ago, how the Steelers-Ravens game was going to go, how they play. This is how they play almost the exact opposite against Cincinnati. You look back, they always seem like they give up a lot of points against the Bengals. It's just, it's not a good mix for them. I just think it's going to be another loss.
Wow.
Right. So if I'm going to talk about my Steelers, let's talk about, Mike, a team that you have a lot of questions about. And it's not the 49ers today. It's the Packers. You keep telling me that this team is not good. It's not good. But, man, oh, man, they looked good last week. So what's going on with the Packers?
Get the out of here. Of course they looked good last week. No Trent Williams. You start a quarterback that was the wrong call for the 49ers. You play a guy with a broken damn finger who could didn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. Yes, he's been in the system a little bit longer, but let's call a spade a spade. Josh Dobbs was the better option there. That being said, everybody's got injuries. The Niners are in a whole mess of everything. Here's my thing on the Packers. Yes, they're 8-3. But when I go back and I look at the Packers schedule, they eked out a win when the Texans effed up the clock at the end of the game. They've looked good sometimes. They've looked horrible other times. I'm going to use the Jacksonville game, road game in Jacksonville. Obviously, that was the game Jordan Love got a little dinged up. But before that, he wasn't looking great in that game. He was 14 of 22, 196 yards. And my question with the Packers is when it comes down to it, and we saw this last year in the divisional game, ironically, against those same 49ers, can Jordan Love make the throws when they need to? And the thing that we have to remember about the Packers, let's look at their wide receivers. Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, who's a show favorite, always will be a show favorite. We got to remember how young this team is. And I'm looking at game totals from Jordan Love, 163 yards on 56% completions against a Niner team that had no Nick Bosa. There was no pressure whatsoever. How many interceptions did the 49ers drop in that game that could have put them in a better position? They did what they had to do. Josh Jacobs, the Packers aren't a good football team.
Well, I know, but I mean, their record would show otherwise. I mean, they're still, I know they're winning some close games, but listen, they're still getting those wins. And Jacobs starting to look a little bit better. I mean, I've seen him the last couple of weeks. He's starting to feel a little more at home in that system. I don't think they used him as much as I think they could in the beginning of the year. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the bottom, I mean, they're not going to win that division. We know that. They're setting themselves up, for that wild card, but they're still getting it done. And again, they could have beaten San Francisco last year in the playoffs. We know that. They could have done it. They were right there. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I see what you're saying about Love, but the bottom line is this team is still getting the W's.
Tease, I'll let you jump in here, but we talk about evaluating quarterbacks, and here's my thing with Jordan Love. I'm looking at multiple times this year he's been sub 60% on his completion percentage. That to me tells me a lot of how a quarterback's playing. Yes, we can look touchdowns, interceptions. That's easy. You got to dig deeper with that. You got to look at, and I'm looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times this year. He's been sub 60%. That's a guy that I don't necessarily trust in the postseason to make a throw when he has to, TJ.
No, that's fair. That's a fair assessment too. I mean, you would like to see that number a little bit higher to build you up a little bit more confidence. But like Max says, this team is just winning. And so this goes back to that whole argument, that's been, oh my goodness, the Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson freaking argument on, do you want somebody who's a game manager or do you want somebody to put up stats? Because like the important thing is they're winning games.
Win, baby.
And yeah, they're not going to like Max, they're not winning the division. I mean, they still have an outside shot, but Detroit is so much better than them at this point. But I mean, this team just keeps every time I think like I thought they were going to lose to the Niners. I really did. I thought the Niners were a better team. And then like that result.
Brandon Allen happened.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I thought they were going to lose to Chicago. They won. I thought they were going to lose to Detroit. They lost. I thought Jacksonville had them. They won. So they keep on finding ways to get W's here. And I think that says a little bit more about Jordan Love than just his completion percentage.
It's a fair statement. Whatever. Moving on. Just so people know, I don't even have Green Bay at 11th. My 11th team on the pyramid is Denver. And you guys both looked at me like I had two friggin' heads when I said this. And now that things are kind of leveling out because Washington's kind of forgotten what they were doing well on offense, I'd have Denver at 11 knocking down that door. And I said Bo Nix. I thought Bo Nix over the long haul of this would be the quarterback that had the most success out of this draft class. He's gotten better and better and better every week. And I'm telling you, and I'm screaming this from the rooftops. Why? I've never been a big Sean Payton fan, but Denver, the next step for them will be putting themselves in a position next year to get a home playoff game. Because if you have to play that defense with a Bo Nix that's getting better and better and better, and he's got the right coach for him to develop, and you've got to go to Denver and play a playoff game next year, I don't think you want any part of it. This year, it's not going to happen. Denver's going to be on the road, but I don't think Denver's a walkover. I've also got Atlanta higher than I do Green Bay because I think the ceiling for Atlanta is a lot higher than it is for Green Bay. I know I'm talking about one of your
quite a bit this year.
favorite teams, but yeah, I know. But to me, I'd take Denver over Green Bay. I'd take Atlanta over Green Bay, and I wouldn't hesitate to do it.
Atlanta for me is probably is like my last year is like the Jacksonville Jaguars of the last couple of years. They're really a disappointment to me. I can't, every time I seem to want to hitch onto that train, it seems like it falls apart. I have no trust in that team whatsoever. No. I mean, it's all there. I mean, it looks good. It's a shiny engine, but I can't hitch myself to that train right now.
We got about 30 minutes to kick off the Black Friday game, Chiefs and Raiders. So let's get into some of our game previews. We're going to take you right up to kickoff time on that game. Guys, let's start with the Eagles and the Ravens. One team I don't trust and another team I don't know who the hell is going to show up every week. Baltimore at home, they're about a 3-point favorite, over under right around 50.5. We saw the Ravens get a big win in Los Angeles. We saw the Eagles get a big win in Los Angeles in consecutive days. Guys, for me, the Ravens thing is it's just they're so head scratching, TJ. Like 1 week they look like they're a Super Bowl team. The next week you're like, what the hell? This team can't cover a cold kid with a blanket. And I don't know. And Monday night's game was kind of interesting. The Harbaugh, obviously there's some extra there. It was a really good football game. The Ravens come out on top. You saw the depth of the weapons, TJ, that Baltimore has. Mm-hmm. I don't know how I feel on this game, and it's part of my best bet, and I'll get to that pick later. Eagles-Ravens, first thought, TJ.
I love the bird matchup in this one, but no, you're exactly right. Like the Ravens are some kind of conundrum here. Like they lost at home to the Raiders. And you can just file that for whatever you want to, whatever you think it's worth. But then this team has won games like that game against Cincinnati, which was a shootout, right? They blew Denver. They blew Denver out. They beat a good Tampa Bay team. They beat a good Washington team because I think Washington's pretty good, and they beat a good Charger team. That Charger team's pretty good. They're kind of a weird team. I still go back to losing Patrick Queen in the offseason. I think that was a huge loss for them. He seemed to be the guy that made that defense run. And when he went to Pittsburgh, I thought that they were done. They're proving me wrong, but this is going to be a tough go against Philadelphia. I mean, Saquon looked amazing the other night. And it seems like this Eagles team, even though like Sirianni is like one step away from his key card not working the next day, they seem to be just pushing all the right buttons right now.
Interesting thing in this matchup, Mac, is you've got Philly, who's 5-1 on the road, Baltimore, who's 4-1 at home. But like TJ just said, we know what the one loss was at home. It was to the freaking Raiders. And that's the thing, is like, I don't know who I'm getting when I see Baltimore. I don't get it, Mac.
All right, so a couple of things. Number one, we'll throw out the big Lamar stat. Okay, against the NFC, we know what his record is, right? 22-1. There's that. So I can say it all the time. You can't practice against them. You don't know what it is. And no pun intended. I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. Okay, bird feathers. I'm going to ruffle some feathers. And I want you to understand, this is not the black and gold speaking. I'm not speaking as a Steelers fan and a Ravens hater. Okay, but here it is. Ready? Hold on to your birds. I don't like Lamar Jackson as a quarterback. I would not take him on my team. I don't like him. And you want to know why? Here's why. He's too inconsistent for me. He's too inconsistent for me. I watch him play a lot. He misses a lot of passes. His receivers bail him out a ton. I don't think he's real that accurate a quarterback. Part of that is because I think he's moving around so much. I get that. But I'll be honest with you. Again, it's not the black and gold talking. I would not want him as my quarterback. I don't like him I know he's a good quarterback, but it just, for me, I think because he moves so much, And I know he's gotten a little bit better, but I think that goes to his inaccuracy. Plus, on top of that, this Ravens defense is not good. Let's just be honest. They're not that good. And I know one thing about Philly is they do have some weapons and they can put some points on the board. But again, this is a tough one for me. I think Philly can go in and beat Baltimore. Will they? No, they won't, because for whatever reason, Lamar seems like he beats everybody in the NFC.
Max laying the 3. TJ, are you laying the 3 or are you taking the 3?
Are those my only choices? Because you know what I'd rather do here. I think, yeah, exactly. I think Philadelphia wins this game straight up. I think I would take them on the money line, especially if I can get plus money for them, which I believe I can. I would take Philadelphia.
And I'm going to save my pick for the best bet segment. Guys, let's go to the biggest conundrum in the freaking world here. San Francisco at Buffalo. Buffalo, about a 7-point favorite. 44.5 is the number. And this San Francisco team is an absolute abject disaster right now. We saw it last week. Granted, okay, let's be honest here. You take out the best left tackle in the game. You take out the best edge rusher in the game. And you take, if there's any moron out there, any idiot out there, I bookmark this, copy it, tweet it, send it. If there's any idiot out there that still thinks that Brock Purdy is not a good quarterback, I give you last week's example with San Francisco and Green Bay. Okay? Mm-hmm. Not a system quarterback, one of the top 10, maybe top 7. You can probably push top 5 quarterbacks in the league depending on where you stand on it. This Niner team is a mess right now. They've opened the practice window for Dre Greenlaw. They get Buffalo in Buffalo. Buffalo will be supercharged Sunday night football game coming off of a bye. And this is the classic game. Remember at the beginning of the year, and now everybody thinks I hate Philly. At the beginning of the year, everybody thought I hated Buffalo. This is the game. I want to see the Bills step up, throw their stuff down on the table and go, we know what we have because we have the tiebreaker over Kansas City. Kansas City's got Houston. Kansas City's got Pittsburgh. The door is open for the Bills. This is the game I want to see them steamroll through. When you flip to the other side, Mac, San Francisco right now, 17th pick in the draft. Okay? And here's where it's going. They're 1 win away from having the 9th pick in the draft. We know the Brock Purdy contract. Arguably, $300 million guaranteed, $600 million total. They've been setting up for this for a while. They're 17th pick right now. 1 win's costing them the 9th pick. Let's say the season just ends up being shit, and it continues to be shit. They still have games against the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals, or the Rams and the Cardinals. They have the Bears in there. Obviously, this game against Buffalo. San Francisco could finish last in the division. So let's flip this forward. Brock Purdy gets his deal. They've got some decisions to make. The Niners have a top 15 draft pick. Let's just leave it there. They also get a 4th place schedule in that scenario. They get the AFC South next year, the NFC South next year. They would get the worst team in the North and the worst team in the East. So you're talking about Bears and Giants with an AFC South, NFC South schedule. I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing in the world if San Francisco finishes last in the division. At the same time, they're a win against the Rams, a win against the Cardinals away from winning the division and being in the, quote, Houston Texans spot at number 4 and hosting a home playoff game, which ironically right now would be against the Green Bay Packers. Right now, if the playoffs started today, Seattle would be at Green Bay. If the Niners win the division, you get it. This Niner team, I don't know what to expect from them. And I think Sunday, and granted, this is going to go all the way down to game time, Mac, like Trent Williams' status, Nick Bosa's status, Brock Purdy. The weird thing about Brock Purdy is they don't even really know what the hell's wrong with his shoulder. Deebo Samuel has been missing in action all year. They're a mess. This is where I want to see Buffalo kick the door down and go, yeah, we're that damn good.
Okay. Grab your extra plate of turkey and stuffing, throw in some of that extra cranberry sauce. Temperature at game time is going to be in the low 20s and a 70% chance of snow. What that equals is a Buffalo Bills victory quite easily. Enjoy your draft pick because they're not winning this game.
Oh, I'm not saying that's what I wanted.
I'm just saying there's no way. They're not going out. They're not going to Buffalo with that weather and coming away with a victory. As a matter of fact, I think the weather, if it's as bad as they say it is, will probably keep the score a little bit closer. But this is This is mafia weather. We know that, baby.
TJ, I just go. I have nothing.
I agree. I have to. Look, you said it. You said it at the onset. It's time for Buffalo to throw their S on the table and show what they're made of. They beat Kansas City, which everybody that's even though they beat Kansas City in the last 3 regular seasons, haven't beat them in the playoffs. But that's like the team. They have to beat Kansas City. Well, now go out there and start beating playoff teams. Like San Francisco was a playoff team last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went go and beat them and beat them, right? And then let's go and see what you got next. Next, you're at the Rams, you're at the Lions, and you have the Patriots. Go beat these teams. Go on a run, Buffalo, and show us what you're made of. It's time to either crap or get off the pot with this team. Even though, yes, they've had a bunch of injuries, they've replaced personnel, but the bottom line is Josh Allen's still there. The heavy hitters are still. Look, you have to make a decision right now, Buffalo. Are you in for a penny or are you in for a pound? Go on a run or just let Miami take your spot and win the division.
Hey, social team, make sure we get a shirt printed for TJ penny or pound thing here. Mac, the irony here is what we thought San Francisco would be. Injuries, blown leads, whatever. Buffalo's the same thing. They're just on the opposite. They're having the success side of the spectrum. Right. These two teams are so damn similar. Shit or get off the pot and get the job done. Now, Buffalo hasn't been to that Super Bowl, but they've banged on that door. And it's like, again, this is the game. Okay, Buffalo, you've got a wounded, beat up, mentally just effed up Niner team right now. Go pound their asses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, TJ, I think you hit it exactly right. I mean, these next 3 weeks, the Buffalo Bills need to show what they're made of. I mean, these are, in essence, they're 3 really big marquee games, 49ers, the Rams, and of course, the one against the Lions. So, we'll see where they are. They passed the first test on you, Mike. We know that they're better than the Jets. We'll see. We'll see what they can do now. Sorry.
I don't even know what to do with you sometimes. Let's go to another one. Speaking of the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals, they come off the bye. They get the loss in Seattle last week, disjointed. And one of the things that I said in the Sunday spread was I was concerned that the bye was going to derail the Cardinals' momentum. I don't necessarily know if it derailed their momentum. Seattle is just a house of horrors for them. They've massively struggled to play in Seattle. Leonard Williams, that's why he was in Mike's Man Crush this week, just an absolute game record, and that's why they traded for him last year. Mind-blowing. The Cardinals, and I don't know if it's one year or the other, so don't shoot me here. The Cardinals haven't won a regular season game in Minnesota since 1977, maybe 1975. One of those 2 years. It's been a long time. Granted, they don't play there every year, so we understand that. It's about a 3.5-point spread for Minnesota. Interesting matchup here. Minnesota, we know their defense. I've talked about Minnesota in the power pyramid a lot. Their offense has looked really, really disjointed lately. They struggled to get by the Bears. They didn't look overly impressive against the Titans. But again, it's the same kind of thing we talk about. And similar situation, maybe, Mac, is Minnesota and Pittsburgh. Defense travels. This defense is going to win a lot of games for Minnesota. I don't know how to take this game at all. I'm not sure what Cardinal team is going to show up because they didn't look good last weekend at all.
No, they and I told you we talked about that. For whatever the reason, they go up to Seattle and the game doesn't travel. Here's what's going to be the interesting thing. Take this week out. They play Seattle next week again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at home. Where we say, can they make those adjustments? For me, this seems like a 2-game losing streak for the Cardinals. I don't see them going into Minnesota and being able to pull this one out. I'm still not impressed with this Arizona Cardinals team. I know they've gotten some nice wins, but again, this team I'm not impressed with. Minnesota's got to figure it out. I think this is the week they finally kind of put things together and maybe start to figure it out. Their defense is really good. We know that. I just can't see the Cardinals going on the road and winning this game. What, St. Louis Cardinals, Arizona Cardinals, I don't care who, just it's not happening.
I'm trying to go back through my mind and think of all the cities the Cardinals have played in now.
And you see, you derailed him, Mac.
Chicago.
Sorry, so, I didn't realize it was that. Oh my gosh!
My Windows operating system is rebooting. Please hold. Mac, I think you're right, though. I don't think I find it difficult to believe that Arizona will go up there and beat Minnesota. That defense is pretty darn good. And I just don't think. I think the Cardinals have been winning with smoke and mirrors, to be honest with you. Like that Seattle game was completely winnable, and they just flat out botched the whole thing up. They beat a crappy Jets team. They beat a crappy Browns team. They had a good win against, Miami, I guess. But this team isn't beating teams that a playoff team should beat. And so, yeah, their position looks okay in the NFC West, but I just don't think that Arizona is. I don't think they're at that point yet. I think they're exactly where they're supposed to be in their rebuild. But let's not go start planning parades in Glendale just yet. I think they're probably a year away from a playoff.
And here's the thing: if you look at the rest of after Seattle next week, the 2 weeks after that, they have the Patriots and the Panthers. So they can get well in a hurry. And then then they have the Rams and the 49ers. So the rest of their schedule isn't really all that difficult. So even though they're not playing well, they still have a good chance of winning that division.
I'm gonna put you guys. Sorry, Teach. I'm going to put you guys both on the spot here as we enter Week 13. We've talked about the NFC West a lot because it's the most confusing damn division in the world. You're in last place in the West. You're one win from the 9th draft pick. Like, that's how much there is up in the air. TJ, I'll start with you. Who wins the NFC West as we enter Week 13?
Oh, wow. If I had to pick right now,
it's a tough one.
I would say Seattle. If I had to pick right now, but even Seattle, I'm like one game Geno Smith looks like a genius, and the other week he looks like a pizza roll. It's just he's not. It's like a division of inconsistency, and of course we wouldn't necessarily be thinking about this. The 49ers have had so many injuries that it's almost unfair, but it is what it is. The Rams are the Rams. I have no confidence in them. And the Cardinals, I think, are just not there yet. I think they're on the right track, but they're not yet there yet. I would have to say Seattle.
I think the Cardinals, and I talked about them in our training camp tours, like if you slept on this Cardinal team, my exact words were, you were going to get got. The emerging superstar in Trey McBride, who was huge again last week. But I think they're still one more year away, and they're going to have a shit ton of money to spend next season. Money Austin Fort's shown that he's capable and knowledgeable enough to manipulate a draft to his favor. Marvin Harrison's just going to get better. They've got the things. Mac, who wins the NFC West?
I think the Cardinals win. I think just because of their schedule. They're going to have they should be able to beat the Patriots. They should be able to beat the Panthers in there. I think they'll beat Seattle at home. It's that weird thing. They play Seattle a little bit better at home than they do on the road. And then they have the Rams and the 49ers to finish. But if they beat with a loss this week to the Vikings, if they beat Seattle, the Patriots, and the Panthers, they're going to be in the driver's seat the last 2 weeks.
I'm going to call my shot right now, guys. Week 18, the last game of the season, will be San Francisco, Arizona, in Arizona, for the division title. And as embarrassing as all hell as it sounds, probably the team that gets the 9 wins goes to the postseason. Niners, Cardinals, last game of the year. Let's move on. We got about 20 minutes to kick off Black Friday football, guys. After what we saw yesterday, hoping that we go forward here a little bit. Chiefs and Raiders, big number here. The Chiefs almost 2 touchdown favorites. I know this is going to get Tony in a whole different mood, but let's talk about the fact that the Chiefs continue to win close games. And we saw what happened last year in a spotlight game of Chiefs and Raiders. It was what the hell. Now, that being said, this Raiders team isn't absolute freaking train wreck. What are your thoughts here? I don't know if I would like to touch the number on this one, but I got a weird feeling that this is the week with reinforcements coming for Kansas City that they blow the freaking doors off the Raiders today. Deej?
I don't know if 12 is even enough. This Minshew's out. Desmond Ritter you might as well be John Ritter throwing the football. I mean, it's so bad.
Three's not a company.
And you know what though? It's funny.
Is someone knocking on your door?
Stop.
Just don't wear the shorts. Don't wear the shorts. This is what, and I've been saying this all freaking year, and you can go back through all the exchanges and you can go through and you can look at the tape. Look at the tape. This is what this team gets for going cheap at premium positions. I've said it before, and I'll say it until the end of this season. They should have tried harder to get Justin Fields, and it would only cost them a 5th-round draft pick if they just need to be better than the offer. They decided not to pay Josh Jacobs, and they tried to go with White, and he's out. And so they bring in Abdullah and Madison, and they're terrible, right? The receivers, they wound up having to send Adams out on a rail. And if you look at that trade, that was just another horrendous Mark Davis deal. This team went cheap at premium positions on offense, and this is the result that you get. They don't have the depth to overcome all the injuries. Brock Bowers has been great. Everybody else has been garbage. And so this is what they get. And now you have to go into Kansas City on a, quote, nationally streamed televised game and try to win. Are you freaking kidding me? They might as well just roll out whomever they're going to roll out. I said last season, and I said, just put Ritter in there, finish 2-15, and go draft Cam Ward, because that's what you need to do. And rant.
Not Shedeur Sanders. Mac?
Ooh, man. Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, I mean, in Latin, Raiders means, I think, mess, total mess. You know, it's just one of those things. It's like, I mean, I thought they were going to be a little bit better this year, but man, it seems like everything they touch just turns completely terrible right now. Yeah. I mean, if you want to look at the bright side, maybe Tom Brady will have some insight for you guys and, be able to help out a little bit there. But right now, this team is just a mess. I know it's kind of funny. It's kind of like the running joke. How's Kansas City going to, win this week, this game? Who's going to miss a kick or who's going to get a kick?
Tony's favorite game. What are you talking about?
I know. I have to agree with you. TJ, I don't think you have to worry about it tonight. Mm-hmm. I mean, this should be an absolute blowout. I mean, you can tell Patrick Mahomes was saying he doesn't want this anymore. Feel bad for that team that's next. Oh, gosh, it happens to be their arch rival. Didn't the Raiders talk shit about Mahomes at the beginning of the year, too?
The Kermit doll in training camp.
Yeah, he's just going to want to bury their ass on Black Friday.
Well, and and look, I'm freaking out about all the offense. The defense is actually a decent defense, but the problem is they're out on the field so bloody much. Like they get, like Max and Spillane, they can only do so much. But if they're out on the field for 85, 90 snaps, they're just not going to have the energy to get it done. And that goes 100% on the offense. And look, I like AP. I think he's a good coach. I think he's the right coach for this position. But bro, give him something to play with. You're not giving him a chance.
How do you not recruit free agents to play in Las Vegas is the most mind-blowing thing in the world. Like, why would you not want to play there? Here, I've got positive news for Raider fans because all three of us are taking the Chiefs to beat the hell out of the Raiders today. Here's a great one. Merry Christmas. Jaguars and Raiders on December 22nd. The battle for Cam Ward. Yeah,
good Lord. Although I will say this, the last team to beat the Chiefs at home
is the Raiders. And you have a Monday night football game to look forward to in a couple of weeks when Atlanta goes to Vegas and kicks your ass. All right, guys.
I don't like that.
We're getting close to kickoff time. Let's go around the horn, and we'll start best bets with the guy that pulls best bets out of places that I have no idea where he gets them from. Vegas Mac, best bets. Go for it.
Man, I feel like I'm going to kind of disappoint you this week. I'm going
Is
out.
it normal and small? Said every guy ever. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we still talking about the bets?
I can't get John Ritter out of my head. This whole thing.
I'm taking the Notre Dame USC angle on this one. You know, I haven't. I'm going to be honest. I haven't watched a lot of Notre Dame. I'm going to be tuned in on this one. Notre Dame 6-0 against the spread in its last 6 games. Did you know that? Yeah. How about that? This Notre Dame defense is pretty good, though. I know that as well. I'm taking Notre Dame in this game, baby, minus those 7. I told you, it's just kind of an easy one. Oh, wait a minute. That's not the only one I'm going to take. There's another one I'm going to take, and it's not going to be ASU. I'm going to steal a little TJ's thunder. I'm telling you right now.
Oh.
I'm telling you right now. Nevada's going to pull the upset in this game. Take Nevada. They're not going to need any points. They're going to beat UNLV. I got a feeling. My son told me, I got a feeling. I got to go with it.
Go ahead, DJ.
I
can never follow him in this segment.
I would buy you a steak dinner and not one of those cheap steak dinners either.
Sharpie.
My best bet is SMU going over this weekend against Cal. I think I love SMU's offense. I think I think the last time I saw it was at 53.5. I think SMU can easily score 41 against this team. Cal, ever since the game day experience, has just, and so, but that being said, this would be a game where SMU would get up like 41-7, and then a couple of garbage time BDTs, and that would cover your over. So I'm going to take that game over. That's my best bet.
All right, mine's I got mine split. I'm going to play it 2 different ways. I'm going to play it Saturday, I'm going to play it Sunday, and I'm going to play it together. Saturday, Syracuse plus 10.5 against Miami. Miami hasn't played the complete 60 minutes yet, and Syracuse this late in the year is a tough place to go. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami blows the number out, and I'm holding my stuff. But I think Syracuse can kind of keep it close, maybe a backdoor touchdown to get inside the number. And then I'm laying a massive number. I locked it in at minus 18.5. I've shared my thoughts 100% on what I think of this Oregon Ducks team. They haven't been at full throttle yet, which is even scarier. I know Washington thinks it's a big rivalry game for them. Oregon's got bigger picture. They're coming off of a bye. So I've got Cuse and Oregon on Saturday. Cuse plus 10.5, Oregon minus 18.5. Let's flip to the NFL side. This will blow your minds, guys. I've got on the money line the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this weekend against the Bengals because they're money line dogs. I picked the Bengals.
They're dogs, all right. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I picked the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season, and they can still get themselves into the playoffs. They absolutely have to have this game. Pittsburgh at plus 130 when I locked them, no brainer for me. Here's the one that's going to really blow your mind, and part of it's a conundrum for me. I don't trust this guy. I don't trust this team. But Philly's got some kind of role right now. Saquon Barkley averages 126.5 yards a game, which is his average, as I mentioned in Mike's Man Crush. For the rest of the year, he breaks Eric Dickerson's record by 43 yards. He's been the difference maker, and I think he can cover up a lot of the potential stupid things that Nick Sirianni does. I don't know which Ravens team's going to show up every week. So on Sunday, I've got the Steelers on the money line and the Eagles on the money line. All of those of you in the Keystone State that they think I hate both of your teams, I definitely don't hate the Steelers. And here you go, Eagles fans. I'm on your side there. So if you take my Sunday, it's a plus 429. You take them all together, it's a plus 1828. Syracuse might be the one there. Guys, it's been fun. We're going to go eat some more leftovers, head right up to kickoff. Final words from everybody. Mac, you go first.
Fair the fork, baby, kitty cats. We're coming for you tomorrow.
TJ.
I got to go watch some Three's Company reruns. So
Jesus.
I'm going to put that on TV1, and I'll see you later.
Hey, we'll knock on your door. You can follow us at Mike Arana Show on all socials except for Snapchat, including Blue Sky. For these two knuckleheads, our whole crew behind the scenes, Vegas
Hey,
Matt,
it's
DJ,
Mr. Roper.
I'm Mike. We're out.